The following Facilities Management Insight was filmed at the NFMT Conference and Expo.
But a lot of times, facility managers don't see retro-commissioning or recommissioning or even an energy audit as valuable, or at least on par with capital improvements. Jason, why is it? Why should retro-commissioning or energy audits be treated similarly to capital improvements to get a truly high-performance building?
Well, as Jim was saying, if you begin to bundle things together, then you can really pull in some of the deeper retrofits and get to the sort of energy efficiency savings that we're hoping to see. So I think it is important that everybody look at those as part of a package. But frankly, I have more questions than answers in response to that. Because, again, we operate from the policy perspective. Thankfully, we have experts like you that are on the ground that understand how the buildings are operating and what can be done. And I have to profess to being rather frustrated and confused sometimes when I talk to building owners or to policymakers how little understanding there is of the value of retro-commissioning in particular and what it can do for buildings. There are many cities, local governments that are considering various types of requirements for mandatory retro-commissioning, maybe every 5-10 years, things like that. And there's an enormous amount of pushback from building owners, in many cases, property management firms, even though there's plenty of data out there that shows incredibly fast payback times, 18 months or less. And it's really not a payback. That's something I'm trying to get people to stop talking about. It's your ROI. You're making an investment in improving performance of your systems, and then that will continue for several years after you make those investments. So even with some hard financial data and understanding of the benefits to occupant comfort and tenant satisfaction, things like that, there seems to be either a lack of awareness, a lack of appreciation, or just simply resistance to the upfront cost. There are certainly some things that can be done from a finance point of view to buffer the upfront cost. But I think there's a real need and a real opportunity for the industry to educate, to inform, to provide the right resources so that retro-commissioning in particular becomes much more accepted and much more widespread, because I see a real need for that right now.
Okay, very good.
If I could just add something to that. 5 years ago, the executive director of the local BOMA chapter in Detroit twisted my arm and said, we need a sustainability committee. We want you to be the chair of the sustainability committee. It's like, I don't need another committee. But when I thought about it, it's like, well, maybe if I do that, and I'm going to have all building owners and facility managers on my committee, I'll find out why building owners don't do energy audits. And it took me a year until somebody finally said, Jim, this is, remember, 5 years ago, so we were talking 2009, right after everything wasn't doing too well. And he said, Jim, he said, I'm going to tell you why we don't do it. He said, our buildings are 65% occupied if we're lucky. We don't know if we're going to own them a year from now. We're concerned about our crumbling parking lots and our leaky roofs. We're not going to do an energy audit and then have to put all this money into these retrofits that you're going to recommend. And of course, my answer is a lot of these recommendations are low cost, no cost, and instead of sending your money every month to the utility, you can be putting it to your bottom line and do better for yourselves. They still don't do it.
Let me add one more point to that as well, which is that a lot of what we're beginning to see is recognition of the value of high-performing buildings, that they are generating lower vacancy rates, higher asset valuations, things like that. So making those sorts of investments that you're talking about is actually part of the solution to get beyond the challenge of lower vacancy and everything else. Make your building appealing, attract the right kind of tenants that you're looking for.